There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Sean the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel and another wee book haul. Got 3 books for you tonight. I think you know how it works. First one is another novel by Yiyun Lee, Kinder Than Solitude. I have no idea where I got this, but at some book sale or other. And this was published in 2014. Yiyun Lee has been a mixed bag for me. Her autobiographical essays, I'll put the cover gif up here. I can never remember the exact title. From My Life, I Write to You and Your Life, something like that. And it was a transformative read. I'll put a link to my hot take video. It's pretty raw. I absolutely love that book. Oh my god. And then I read her subsequent, I think it was pretty much the next one, Where Reasons End, which was about the tragedy that befell Yiyun Lee. Her, I think, 15-year-old son committed suicide, and it was shortly after she had recovered from her own suicidal depression. And she wrote a novel that was a dialogue between her and her dead son, and it just didn't work for me. I don't think I'm alone in that, but I think there's a lot of readers that did love it. So one extremely positive experience, and one that was much less so. So this novel, Kinder Than Solitude, is much earlier than those. The timeline goes back and forth between today, i.e. around 2014, and China in the 1990s. 3 people whose lives are changed by a murder one of them may have committed. I would trust Yiyun Lee to write a novel that is evocative of a murder mystery, which is my most hated genre of any genre out there, and make it work. So we'll see about that. If I like it, it's by definition not genre fiction. So that's the prerogative which I would exert in that situation. Opening paragraph. Bo Yang had thought grief would make people less commonplace. The waiting room at the crematory, however, did not differentiate itself from elsewhere. The eagerness to be served first, and the suspicion that others had snatched a better deal, were reminiscent of the marketplace or stock exchange. A man shouldered him, reaching for multiple copies of the same form. "Surely you have only one body to burn," Bo Yang laughed to himself, and the man glared back, as though personal loss had granted him the right to what he was not owed by the world. Well, that's quite a fabulous opening to the novel. Kinder Than Solitude. Anybody read it? Do you think I'll like it? It's not really a murder mystery, is it? Next is the second volume in the Cairo Trilogy, Palace of Desire by Naguib Mahfouz. It's translated from the Arabic by William Maynard Hutchins, Lorne M. Kenny, and Olive E. Kenny. Holy smokes. I read the first one, Palace Walk, a couple years ago and just loved it. And I've taken my sweet time to track down, because I wanted the second volume in the same edition, and it was kind of a bugger to find it. So I finally have it, and who knows when I'll get around to reading it. I might wait, because Volume 1 I did as an audio text combo, and the audiobook was masterful. Neil Shaw did the audio narration, and it was a peak audiobook experience. I read it, I never had the book not open in front of me, but his narration was fantastic. And the audiobook for this one or the third one aren't out. So come on, Neil Shaw, what are you doing? But anyway, if it's still not available when I'm ready to do this, does anybody know of another audiobook? I didn't do much due diligence, because I'm Sean the Book Maniac. I just turn on the recorder and just wing it. But Palace of Desire has not been narrated. It's not available on Audible by any narrator, certainly not by Neil Shaw. He was my first choice. I put off for 20 or 30 years even starting the Cairo Trilogy, and boy, I loved Palace Walk. So it's about a really cloistered family where, even though the father is a misogynist patriarch, you can't help but be fascinated by him and his poor, downtrodden, submissive wife, and then the 2 daughters who have their erotic romantic yearnings to get out of that restrictive house, and a son. And it was just an incredibly fascinating story. There's scenes I can close my eyes and step back into certain scenes in that novel. And so this carries on the story. I don't think I need to know another darn thing about it. Let's see how it opens. Al Sayyid Ahmad Ab al-Jawad closed the door behind him and crossed the courtyard of his house by the pale light of stars. His step was lethargic, and his walking stick sank into the dusty earth whenever he leaned on it wearily. He felt on fire and craved cold water so he could wash his face, head, and neck and escape, if only briefly, from the July heat and from the inferno in his belly and head. Cheered by the thought of cool water, he smiled. When he entered the door leading to the stairway, he could see a faint light coming from above. It flowed along the wall, revealing the motion of the hand that held the lamp. He climbed the steps with one hand on the railing and the other on his stick. Its successive taps had long ago acquired a special rhythm, which identified him as easily as his features. Amina was visible at the head of the stairs, with the lamp in her hand. On reaching her, he stopped to regain his breath, for his chest was heaving. Then he greeted her in his customary way. "Good evening." So that man, Al-Sayed, which means Mr. Ahmad Abd al-Jawad, that's the patriarch that I was talking about. And then Amina is his wife. Oh my god, what marvelous characters. I can't wait to read this. And finally, this is a novel that I bought after chatting about it in an episode of Bite-Sized Book Chats. It was actually episode 68 with the lovely Kezia from Ohio. Look at this. And also, what a gorgeous cover. What Napoleon Could Not Do by D.K. Nnuro. I was also quite smitten with the author photo. But the novel sounded amazing, and I just think it's one of the most gorgeous covers and actually titles of any book published last year. Wasn't it last year? Yes, it was. It's about a brother and sister from Ghana. They both want to move to the United States, and plot ensues, and that's all I need to know plot-wise. And I will link to the Bite-Sized Book Chats episode where Kezia spellbound me with her rave review. I'm going to read the first 2 paragraphs of the opening. From where he was standing on the veranda, Mr. Inti watched as Patricia's people exited the pickup truck that held up 2 sedans behind it. On Saturday mornings, stillness descended on Otumfuo, Dedaoko's busy main road. A stillness Mr. Inti surmised also infected the drivers. How else could he explain the Job-like patience of the people at the wheels of those stopped cars? Hardly a honk from either when they were both forced to idle, all while Patricia's people took a lifetime to cross Otumfuo for the clearing. Otherwise bare, the clearing rose in several small sand mounds, making it feel like unsteady foam underfoot. Still, this inconvenience did not disqualify the clearing as a favored football pitch. The usual footballers who assembled every Saturday at dawn had now dispersed. The dust they excited had dissipated. Mr. Inti had caught the conclusion of this morning's match, after which each side had brought down their collapsible goalposts. Today it had been skins versus shirts, with the skins coming out sand-coated, some appearing as if a curious child had misconstrued sand for body paint, some as if a man had crept out of soot rubble. It was a shame that the dust they'd flared had cleared, Mr. Inti thought. A cloud of it would have precisely underscored the coming of Patricia's indecent lot. Well, that is very engaging. What do you think? Has anybody read this? In general, of the 3, which one would you pick? Which one do you think I would like the most? Weigh in. Thanks for watching.